Do I want movies for seconds? Movies for minutes? Movies for hours? No, I want movies for days. Hi, this is Ryan Wilson, host of You Can Eat That Crust podcast. And when I want to go to a deep dive into a movie, I go to Movies for Days with your host, Professor Newman, laying down those ultra fantastic movies, those deep dives, and the best damn Nicolas Cage impression I have ever heard. So join Newman and his cast of rotating hosts as they bring you Movies for Days, another podcast brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Pizza Bones. Are you going to eat that crust productions? Proud members of the You Run Podcast Network. You can find our shows and everyone else's shows on yourunpodcast.com. My name is Greg Hoey, and with me is Nate Harvey. How you doing, Nate?
I'm doing good, Greg. It's been a while, I feel like.
Yeah, this is episode number 4 of Pizza Bones.
Pizza Bones.
This is a comedy podcast. This is also a true crime episode, and it's got some touchy subject matter, like rape and torture. So if it's not for you, then I suggest maybe going back and checking out an old episode and listening to something else. But tonight we're going to be covering Robert Bordella, the Kansas City Butcher.
Kansas City Butcher. Well,
Again, there's some sensitive material here, so if it's not for you and you don't want to have a few laughs with some insane story, this one is extremely brutal, and I mean that. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's quite the story. Let's say that.
Yeah. So we're gonna get right into it. Bob Bordella was born on January 31st, 1949 in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. He was the eldest of 2 boys, born to Robert Bordella, Sr. and Mary Bordella. Bob did not come from an overly abusive home. While Bob Sr. did occasionally fly into violent rages, Bob's childhood was not marked by the stain of animal abuse or sexual abuse, aka he was just not a violent child.
No.
His teacher said he was an intelligent but frustrating student, just kind of a little pain in the ass. From a young age, Bob had to wear thick prescription glasses to correct his severe nearsightedness.
Wait, hold on. A pain in the ass? Was that a pun?
Hey.
Oh, sorry. It took me a minute, but
Hey,
I
we
got
like
you.
that. We got that. He was a pain in multiple people's asses.
Yes.
6 to be exact. Bob was a loner. His best friend was essentially his mother.
Seems to be a common trend with these fellas.
Yeah, but it seems like Bob's mother wasn't like mentally abusing this kid.
That's true.
He seemed to just be the kind of like an art nerd.
Mm-hmm.
Which, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Bob Sr. did not care for his son because Bob Jr. was not into sports, unlike his younger brother Danny, who was super into sports.
No, he's an artsy kind of guy.
Bob liked staying inside. He liked reading books. He liked painting. He collected stamps and coins. And he also liked to write to pen pals around the world.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. This is where he became first interested in foreign artifacts. At the age of 8, he said he was a devout Catholic. It's kind of weird at the age of 8 to say that.
Yeah, I think his whole family was very, very religious out in Ohio there. So
It makes sense. Everything changed for Bob when he saw the 1965 film adaptation of the serial killer's favorite book, The Collector.
You ever see that?
I've seen the new version. I haven't seen the old version.
Okay. It also inspired Stephen King to write Misery.
Oh.
So.
Well, it also inspired Leonard Lake, who was another serial killer, to capture his Miranda. Charles Ng and Leonard Lake were guys who tortured and raped girls. They were fucking horrible. But Leonard Lake was obsessed with the Collector. And obsessed with finding his Miranda.
We'll have to watch it and see what this is all about then.
Yeah, so it's about a lonely man named Fred Clegg who captures a woman he works with named Miranda, and he keeps her in his basement until she gets sick and dies. And the book was by John Fallows. He said the movie changed something inside him, but what actually changed him is when his dad died. On Christmas Day, 1965, he had a heart attack and died 2 days later at the young age of 39.
Oh, that is crazy, huh?
Yep, it's very crazy. It's very young.
39.
That's how old I am right now. It's crazy.
I'm getting there. 39. Good one.
His mom, yeah. His mom remarried a few months later. She just jumped right into it. So Bob basically went from dealing with his dad's death to a new stepdad that he absolutely hated.
Mm-hmm.
But what had an even bigger effect on him was when he was a teenager, Bob was raped by one of his coworkers while he was working as a line cook at a local restaurant.
Oof.
Which obviously had horrifically negative effects on Bob's psyche.
Mm-hmm. Now, he was gay at that point, though, right? Did he already come out as gay?
No,
or was
not
this
yet.
Still closeted?
He basically didn't come out till he was gay, till he was like an adult. Like he's a teenager still. I think he's still confused about his sexuality. He doesn't know what's going on.
All right.
So 2 years later, Bob graduated from Cuyahoga Falls High School. He moved to Kansas City and enrolled in the Kansas City Art Institute.
You ever been to Kansas?
I have not.
I think I'd kill more if I was in Kansas than Ohio. Actually, he's in Missouri, though, isn't he? Kansas City, Missouri. See, this is what I don't understand. This whole Kansas City, Missouri versus Kansas City, Kansas. And my brother lives there, so I should know these things. But
you should know these things. You have to do
some
digging.
They do have good barbecue. I believe he is from Missouri, though.
Okay.
I believe he's on that side, if I'm not mistaken.
So after he enrolled in the Kansas City Art Institute, he quickly became annoyed by the drug-addled hippie lifestyle that took over college campuses in the late 1960s. Even though Bob did not do drugs, he realized he was a pretty savvy drug dealer. So he started selling weed, pills, and amphetamines to his fellow students.
Get that side hustle going.
Oh, yeah. He even grew his hair out and wore gaudy clothes.
If you're going to do it, go all out.
So it was said that Bob loved being the center of attention. He would dance outlandishly, but not very well. He was a bit of a Elaine Bennis from Seinfeld, do the old thumb dance.
Nice.
And it kind of sounds like Bob's coming out of shell a little bit, but no one really liked Bob because Bob was a sarcastic, overbearing art school dickhead.
Yeah, it's a common trend.
So he did a lot of weird art projects and claimed nobody got his art. His last project, he brought a living duck into the campus, chopped its head off, and danced around the corpse.
I wonder what he got for a grade on that one.
I don't think he got a good grade on that. Even though Bob did eat the duck that night, the administration was not really impressed with Bob's exhibition.
Damn.
So in 1969, Bob dropped out, still convinced he was a misunderstood art genius. Now, around this time, Bob put down a payment of $100 as a down payment on a house at 4315 Charlotte Street, which would eventually be the location where Bob would commit all his grisly crimes. So Bob worked at restaurants to support himself. He worked at a bunch of fancy restaurants around Kansas City as a chef and sometimes a manager.
Was he a good chef?
I assume so.
I think I saw he was. I think he actually trained people as well.
Yeah, because sometimes he was a manager.
Yeah.
But he was still considered a dickhead, and he would love to shock people with a sense of humor and gross, lewd jokes. It's around this time that Bob started to collect foreign artifacts from around the world. Shrunken heads, primitive art, and various occult items. He also came out of the closet in the 70s and lived as an openly gay man.
In the 70s with his mustache.
Yeah, I mean, but in the 70s, that's the tough time to come out as gay. So
Yes. Oh yeah.
in 1981, Bob quit the restaurant business and became a full-time antiques dealer. That was also the year that he rented out a spot at the Westport Flea Market and then opened up Bob's Bizarre Bazaar, which was like an occult shop
Hmm.
where he sold all sorts of weird and strange items.
Hmm.
He was a real pain in the ass in the flea market scene. Everybody thought he was a pain in the ass. So at Bob's Bizarre Bazaar, he sold human skulls. So when his crimes eventually came to light, everyone who bought a skull from Bizarre Bazaar had to come forward to make sure they didn't own a murder victim.
Oh, can you imagine that? We just need to check the model number here and make sure it's not a real one there.
Right?
It's fucking wild.
But all the skulls he sold were fake, except for there was one that was not fake, but it was too old to be a victim. So Bob's occult shop did not really turn a profit. So to help with cost, Bob started renting out rooms in his home. Bob was a hoarder, so the place is always cluttered. Garbage everywhere, old magazines, old newspapers. Bob had multiple chow dogs, and his house was also littered with dog shit. So he usually rented out rooms to young guys who were in trouble with the law. He looked at it like he was kind of doing the community a favor. And for the most part, his neighbors applauded that.
Mm-hmm.
And so these young, struggling, either drug addicts or people in trouble with the law would, help out around the house, exchange for rent, or sometimes they would help around the flea market.
Mm.
But some of these duties also included sleeping with Bob on the regular.
Ah.
And Bob would gain trust with some people, and he'd send them out in the streets basically to recruit more troubled youths. Promises of partying, promises of fun times.
Mm-hmm.
And once he got a young man to his house, he would drug them, have sex with them, and then send them on their way. So one lodger named Philip Bukovitz, who was lucky enough to get by with just living there, said he saw up to 10 young men come in and out of Bob's house in the short time he lived there in 1982. So Bob's first victim would be the son of one of his fellow flea marketeers, Jerry Howell. Bob had known the father for years, and not that Jerry was a bad guy, but he was always in legal trouble. So Bob gained control because Jerry always needed help. So they started to sleep with each other, exchange for money and help. And one night, Jerry did not want to have sex with him. And it started to become a reoccurring theme. Like these nights are going on, and Bob's like trying to get sex with this dude, and this guy's like, nope, shutting him down. So Bob drugged him one night with Valium, animal tranquilizers, and liquors before tying him down and raping him. Bob learned that he loved being in absolute control, and this is where Bob started taking meticulous notes on everything he did to Jerry, including like dosages that would, take to knock him out. He also noted things like FF or BF and CF.
What is that? What do those stand for?
FF would be front fuck.
Oh, all right.
BF would be back fuck or butt fuck.
Okay. Yeah.
And then CF, any guesses what that would be?
Just hit me with it.
That would be carrot or cucumber fuck.
Oh, all right. Huh. Keeping it organic.
Yeah, so he would sodomize all his victims with vegetables, either carrots or cucumbers.
So what, so I've only listened to like smaller podcasts of this, and it never talked about what he used. So I didn't know. So thank you for letting me know it's just vegetables.
Well, so the only thing, he would definitely do other things. And
starts as vegetables.
He said he took notes and he took a lot of photographs. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why we know that he used veggies and carrots and cucumbers, because they were both seen in photos.
Oh.
Bob said he knew when he first tied him up that he would eventually have to kill him. Mm-hmm. He couldn't just let him go. He's gone too far, It's like he's not going to let him out.
Right.
Jerry Howell endured 28 hours of torture at the hands of Bob Bordella before he eventually died.
Oof.
And he either died from an overdose of all the medication or from asphyxiation because the gag in his mouth blocked the vomit coming up from his throat.
Yeah, that'll stop it every time. Hoy.
He dragged the body to the basement, hung it up, and took some Polaroids before getting ready for work. He drained the body of all its blood and left it to drain while he went to work at the flea market. He got home that night, chopped up the body the best he could with butcher's knives, but to sever the spine, he had to use a chainsaw to remove the head. And he had no roommates at the time when he committed murders. He had roommates in, all the time, but anytime he committed a murder, he would never have a roommate.
That makes sense. Try to limit that. Try not to get caught.
Yeah. So when Bob was done, he wrapped the body parts in newspaper, stuffed those in dog food bags, and then put those into 4 additional trash bags. And then he left Jerry Hollow on the curb to be picked up by the Monday morning trash.
Which is absolutely crazy.
Yep.
I mean, do you think you could still get away with that today?
I mean, it all depends how fast you get rid of the body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you were to chop up somebody, like, say, tonight and put them in the trash tomorrow.
Hypothetically.
Taking certain precautions, then, you know, it's not going to smell right away, maybe. But, yeah, that's very ballsy.
See, I feel like it's totally doable, like, even to this day.
You trying to tell me something?
No, I'm intrigued by it. Maybe my inner psychopath is coming out and saying, this is the method. I live in a town where I have to go to the dump myself, but I could throw a body in the dumpster.
This
no
true
problem.
crime podcast is rubbing off on Nate.
Yeah. I got my neighbor across the street, and they have a trash service, so I could just throw one in their bin, throw some in another bin. They'll never find it.
Yeah, but then they find the camera of you throwing them into the bin. It's a whole thing.
That's true. Well, I only go to houses with no cameras, so
good luck with that.
I live in the sticks. It's okay.
So the Howell family immediately suspected Bob Bordella when it was first found that Jerry had gone missing. Mm-hmm. He had always been in and out of Bob's life, in Bob's home, always having fights with him and little tiffs.
And he was only, like 19 or something like that? Or younger, anyway.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, these are all younger dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul Hallwell, the dad, told cops that Bob murdered his son, and the cops didn't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
They said there was not enough evidence. There's a lot of great police work in this case.
Oh, yeah.
At first, Bob was kind of disgusted at what he had done, but eventually he started looking at his notes, and before he knew it, he was masturbating to the notes and the pics.
Oh, God.
Sort of like BTK. BTK used to do these things called slick ads, where he would take magazines and like draw like bondage on these girls, forcefully putting them in his, porn, essentially. Yeah. He would call them as slick ads.
Huh. That's pretty interesting.
So they're both kind of making their own porn.
Mm-hmm.
April 12th, 1985, about 9 months off of a cooling off period, Bob murdered another man by the name of Robert Sheldon. So Sheldon was a heavy drinker, and he was in and out of Bob's house before Bob decided he was going to kill him. Mm-hmm. So on April 12th, Bob drugged Robert, but his tolerance was so high, he just basically kind of got a little stumbly. So Bob went to plan B. He waited a couple more days, and he gave Robert a pill with the equivalent of 5 Valiums.
Jeez.
Once passed out, Bob tied his legs together and brought him upstairs to the bedroom on the 3rd floor. Once up there, he raped him and then injected drain cleaner in his left eye to permanently blind him.
Oh, God.
Which basically made it easier to control.
Oh, yeah.
He also took a hot needle and burned the word hot on his back.
Oh, man.
He was just basically putting his mark on the victim. There was no significance to the word hot. Maybe because he had the hot needle.
Damn.
After that, he gave him a soap and water enema and sodomized him with a carrot. All while taking Polaroids the whole time.
Being a chef, you think he ate these vegetables?
There is no evidence that he did eat those. He didn't say that in his notes.
It wasn't in the notes at all? What about his recipe book? Has anyone gone in there and checked?
We'll kind of come around to that at the end because he was involved in a lot of potlucks.
Okay.
And he loved to make chili. So he's taking Polaroids the whole time. He then filled his ears with a caulking gun to render Sheldon completely deaf.
Oh, God. You know what this reminds me of, though? Do you remember the band The Wisecrackers back in the day?
Oh, yeah. I heard about them.
They used to have this song called Oh No. Yeah.
With the cock and the crack and the cock gun?
Yeah. There's like the Weird Al version would just be like, try to put my cock in his ear with my cock gun, and then good to go.
I can say that when I was reading about the cock and gun, it did bring me back to that lyric.
It did it?
Just a little bit.
Me too!
So after he filled this dude's ears with cock, not his cock, cocking from a cocking gun, Bob just went to sleep and left him there, still tied up and alive. Bob would always have penicillin on hand.
Oh, I'm allergic to penicillin.
Oh, you're allergic to penicillin?
Yeah, so thank God we never came in contact with this guy. For obvious reasons.
Yeah, of course. Basically, he was just trying to stave off infections and so he could torture more people if they got sick.
Yep. Just keep it going. Just like the Energizer Bunny, just keep on going.
So the next day, he brought out a bunch of hyperbolic needles and experimented with acupuncture.
Not in a positive way, I'm sure.
Yeah. So he then went to work and came back to the needles, and they were still sticking out of Sheldon. He left them in him the whole day and went to work.
Oh, man.
He then hooked the needles up to an electrical transformer and shocked Sheldon again and again.
Ugh.
Sheldon's hands had also been tied up really tight with piano wire. Basically, if he lived, it would have caused nerve damage and rendered his hands pretty much useless. So he decided to kill Sheldon because Philip Bukovich, the guy who was one of his roommates, decided to show up and do roof work. So he didn't want this guy like coming in and out of the house and like stumbling and finding this dude in his bed. So basically he went upstairs, put a plastic bag over his head, and he cut up the body the next day. He removed the head, put it in a freezer for a few days, and then buried it in the backyard because he wanted the skulls.
Oh, okay. Besides that, did he keep doing the the old trash method?
Yep. So he left the body in the basement until Monday's trash, and then put it on the curb again. So 2 months after Robert Sheldon, he murdered again. The victim's name was Mark Wallace.
Mark Wallace.
He had helped Bob with yard work and was going through a tough time. He had recently been dishonorably discharged from the Marines, and he developed a very bad drinking problem. So he's kind of like almost like living on the streets, essentially, because during a bad thunderstorm, Wallace hid in Bordella's tool shed. And Bordella's dogs started going crazy because they heard all the noise. So Bob checked his tool shed, and look what he found. Wallace was hiding inside. So he brought him inside, and at Mark's request, he let Bob inject him with tranquilizer.
Wait, on Mark's request?
Yeah, he was just looking to get fucked up.
Okay, all right.
So he eventually passed out, and Bob brought him upstairs and started the whole process again. He connected alligator clips to electrodes and then clips to Wallace's genitals.
Ugh.
He loved to see these people in pain.
Right. Didn't he also do the nipples and the eyelids as well?
I know he did the testicles, like the buttocks sometimes, even the shoulders.
One of my things I was going to ask you later is, what do you think his craziest thing was? At the time, I thought that was pretty wild, but little did I know how bad it was going to get.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, maybe Sheldon's, like the whole cock in the ear and all that shit, but there was one that's pretty bad towards the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, alligator clips, ugh.
They're all bad. But
yes.
Bob loved to see these people in pain. That was his whole thing. But this guy's ordeal was the shortest because he was drugged up so much that he asphyxiated on his own vomit.
Well, that's not fun. He's got to go find a new guy now.
So this took place on a Sunday night, and trash day was Monday, so he didn't have much time. So Bob had to pull an all-nighter to try to get it done in time for the Monday morning trash pickup. And this was his third murder in less than a year.
Oh, God.
So when the cops eventually arrested Bordella, we're jumping ahead a little bit, they went through all his tapes and Polaroids, and they thought they had a murder on audio.
Oh, really?
Yep, they found a tape with what sounded like movement back and forth on a bed and someone yelling threats like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you, motherfucker! I got you! I'm gonna fucking kill you! I got you! I got you!" And so on and so forth. But when confronted with his tape by the cops, Bob said that was actually a tape of Philip Bukovich, the guy who worked on the roof, and his old roommate, masturbating on the third floor.
Oh.
Because roommate Phil would yell at his dick when he jerked off.
All right. That's a good one.
Yeah. So the tape was made because Bob set up like a secret microphone in the air ducts.
Oh,
so he could record what was going on in Phil's room and see if Phil was up to anything.
Nice. Fully Epstein to this guy, huh?
Yeah. So the cops were, they agreed this was Phil, and he was definitely yelling threats at his dick. At least for 10 minutes every time he masturbated.
Damn. I missed that part of the story.
So on September 26, 1985, he would murder his next victim. The victim's name was James Ferris, who was a running buddy of a guy named George Shaw. And these two gentlemen had a run-in with Bordella when they purchased a bottle of animal tranquilizer off Bob for $35.
Oh.
After shooting it up and finding out that it was no good, they went back and traded the animal trank for a little bit of weed.
Weed, tranquilizer.
So after that, the guys were kind of in and out of Bob's place for weeks, showing up drunk at times and sometimes wanted to just crash at his house. Ferris and Shaw were basically drifters. Ferris especially. His wife had just kicked him out after selling all their furniture for drug money.
Whoops.
Ferris was just hanging around all the time and just kind of pissing Bob off a little bit, but Bob's final straw was Ferris was just annoying.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
So one night in late September when James Ferris stopped over drunk, Bob crushed a bunch of Valium and put it in his homemade chili, and he started the process anew.
Mm.
When he had him tied down, he began to experiment with more electricity. He hooked up a spatula to a 7700 volt transformer and shocked his buttocks. He shocked his buttocks, his testicles, and his shoulders.
Oh my God.
Each shock would last between 2 to 5 minutes.
Oh, you ever like just shock yourself with a like an outlet or anything?
Yeah, it sucks. When I turn my light off in my kitchen, if my hands are wet, like I shock myself every time. So I have to always make sure my hands are dry.
Which is a quick second hit. You know what I mean? Like a boom.
Yeah.
Imagine just, oh God.
So this continued along with various sodomies from 9 p.m. to 10:45 the next morning.
Ooh.
Because Bob had to be off to the flea market.
Of course.
This dude never misses work. He's always on time.
No, that would raise suspicion. And then people would be like, oh, he's probably doing, stuff.
Well, so all his neighbors actually said that Bob was a really nice guy and he was just a little bit weird. But like when he started killing people, they said like they noticed like looking back that like he just wouldn't make eye contact anymore. And he wasn't, not that he was an asshole, he just wasn't so friendly and outgoing.
Mm-hmm.
So when Bob returned in the afternoon, Ferris was running a high temperature. So Bob injected him with some penicillin to keep him alive. He kept notes on the injection dose amount, and then he resumed his torture. The drug dose was so high that Ferris died just hours into the second day.
Oh, wow.
Cops were told by Shaw that Bob should be a suspect. Cops also realized that there were similarities to the disappearance of Jerry Hollow, Bob's first victim.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked around and heard that Bob liked to drug young men and have sex with them. Heard rumors of Bob keeping young men in his basement, story after story. Gene Shaw actually testified and led investigators to Bordella's home. But all the cops saw and heard that it was an icky homosexual party house.
It's one of them gay houses.
So the investigation was stalled. And this is what happened in the late 80s with like John Wayne Gacy and Jeffrey Dahmer. Mm-hmm. The cops just heard people were gay. They just did not want to deal with it. It's just...
Right. The stigma there.
So the cops did put a surveillance team on Bob, but there was no real investigation. And Bob did kind of slow down his killing a little bit, having another little cooling off period.
Mm-hmm.
June 17th, 1986, about 9 months after James Ferris was killed, Bob made up his mind to kill again. This person was Todd Stoops. Yeah, Stoops and his wife had stayed at Bob's house in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But Stoops had also moved on to high-risk sex work on the streets.
Oh, he's a risky boy.
Yep, so Bob ran into Stoops at Liberty Memorial Park and decided right there and then that Stoops would be his next victim. Bob invited him back to his house for lunch, and he crushed up some tranquilizer in a peanut butter sandwich. Stoops would soon pass out and spend 2 horrible weeks with Bob Bordella.
Dun, dun, dun.
During the Ferris ordeal, he noted James had a raspy voice, which made it hard for him to scream. So basically, Ferris did not need a gag, and people were choking on their vomit with a gag, so he didn't want that to happen. He wanted to keep these people. He wanted to collect them.
Yep.
So he just wanted to avoid his victims choking on their own vomit, blocked by the gag that they had to use. So Bordella injected Stoops in the neck with Drano to disable his voice box.
Oh, good.
After that, he engaged in torture sessions with Stoops that lasted up to 17 hours, nonstop.
Guy's got some stamina for sure.
Yeah, dude. That's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, like when he first had him, Stoops was fisted by Bordella.
Oh, is this the guy?
And it ruptured the eternal wall of Stoops' anus, and an infection set in.
He died from that, right?
Yep, he died after 2 weeks because he
Oh.
was getting sick, and he's pumping him full of penicillin, but he didn't realize that he ruptured his internal wall of his anus.
That'll do it.
That guy definitely had it one of the worst, you know?
Yeah. Oh, God. With his fist, right?
Yeah, yep. So
Oy.
basically, he had weeks of torture. He had a high fever the whole time, rape, electric shock, nonstop sodomy. So the body was dismembered over the course of 2 nights and then out with the garbage on Monday.
Yep.
So Bob had records and books on satanic rituals, but claims he was just interested in the subject and did not participate in any satanic things.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he had a quote when the cops caught him. He said, "No, I've never exercised anyone. I don't even like aerobics."
There you go. That's an answer.
People later would say that they saw Bob at like satanic rituals, like killing kids and sitting on satanic thrones. Geraldo had like a whole special on it, ate it all up, but that's all hearsay. Like, I don't think Bob Bordella, he was into like weird synth music.
Okay.
I think it was the name of this, the group was something like black metal, but it was just like synth music.
Huh. I hate synth. I hate it.
Synth?
Oh, yeah.
I think, one of the things he listened to was Plantasia, and it was like music for plants.
Oh, good. Helps them grow better.
He also never killed during the winter. It was always a spring or summer thing.
Oh, did he ever say why?
I don't know. He never said why.
Do you have any guesses why?
Maybe the body cleanup? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I would think the winter would be better, with the smell and everything.
Yep. Because the summer heat would be cooking that meat.
Yeah. Interesting.
So in June 1987, his next victim would be Larry Pearson, who was a 20-year-old on probation for the aggravated robbery of a Domino's delivery driver.
Dick.
So he's getting into all sorts of legal trouble, and who's there to help with the legal trouble? Bob Bordella.
Oh, yeah.
And
He's a hero.
Bob and Pearson met at Bob's Bizarre Bazaar, and they connected on a shared interest in wizards and witchcraft. Pearson moved in with Bob, but after 2 weeks of just lazing around the house, Bob again got annoyed. When Pearson started bragging about rolling gay men, Bob decided then and there he was going to kill him.
Yeah.
One day in early August, Pearson said he wasn't feeling well, so Bob gave him some tranquilizers that he claimed were antibiotics.
Take some of these. You'll feel so much better.
Right? And then he challenged Pearson's to a shot contest with vodka and peppermint schnapps. Pearson was soon passed out, and Bordella injected him with 4 additional shots of chlorphazepine.
Oh, is that what it was?
Chlorphazepine. I think
All right.
some kind of animal trank, but
Yeah.
just to make sure he was passed out.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of taking him upstairs because he was a big dude, he brought him down to the basement.
Okay.
So Bordella tied up his hands to a brick column and injected Drano in his neck.
Ugh.
And then he hooked him up to a transformer and shocked him awake.
Oh, God. Jeez.
Bob also brought a mattress down for his own enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
Between the shock sessions and sodomy, Bob used an iron bar to break Pearson's bones in his hands.
Oh. Just smashing his hands?
Yep. Well, he would break their hands, but he wouldn't break them completely. He would just kind of slightly break them so they couldn't use them, because he's tying these people up. So,
right. Oh.
While Bordella broke Pearson's hands, he was taunting him about wizards and witchcraft, saying wizards and witches were fake, while this is the reality you're living in.
Oh, God. That's terrible.
Yeah. So after work, Bob shaved Pearson's head because his hair kept on getting in the way of all the bindings.
Oh.
With the shaving, the torture, and the malnutrition, it gave Pearson the appearance of a concentration camp victim. Basically, that's what he looked like in the photos. Because, again, remember, he's taking extensive notes and keeping photos of everything.
Have you seen any of these photos? Or
I have not. I heard they were brutal.
Yeah.
They're out there, though. That I did not look up. I was like, yeah, you know what? Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought about it, and I said, nah, I'd like to sleep tonight.
Pearson, unlike other victims, kind of went into full submission. He tried to appeal to Bordella and his wants. During one anal rape, Pearson claimed that he was going to die. He basically said that just because he thought Bob wanted to hear that. Like I said,
Huh.
Bob loved to hear his victims in pain.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to please Bordella.
Okay.
And it worked, because after that exchange, Bob changed his tune a little bit. He
Huh.
gave Pearson solid food for the first time, eggs and sausage.
Wow.
He also allowed Pearson to give him oral sex.
That could be a mistake.
Bob liked Pearson, and because of this, he moved Pearson to the upstairs bedroom and out of the basement. He led him upstairs with a dog collar and a leash. Every time Bob left the house, Pearson's arms and legs were tethered to the bedpost. And the cops said when they found the bed later, because like all the bed was up there still, and like all the restraints were up there, and the bedposts were like rubbed raw and smooth from everybody struggling against the ropes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ugh, I can only imagine.
So for the next 2 weeks, they kind of settled into a routine with no torture at all. Bob said, I quote, "I would wake up in the morning, have sex with him, prepare breakfast for the both of us, feed him, tie him down while I went to work or run my errands, go home from work, untied him, gave him a couple cigarettes to smoke, and then I would just go up and spend the rest of the night with him, unless I had errands to run or meetings." He also said he would be very cooperative and he would allow me to tie him back up. So this whole ordeal with Pearson lasted a terrifying 6 weeks.
Damn. That's some time.
Yep. And it all came to an end on August 5th, my birthday,
Yay.
when Pearson had decided he had enough. During another session of oral sex, Pearson had bit down hard on Bob's penis.
Take a bite out of crime.
Yeah, he came extremely close to biting the head of Bob Bordella's penis off.
Oh, man. Ugh. I'm just cringing.
Yeah, it was hanging on by a piece of skin.
And he had to actually go to the doctor, right?
Oh, yeah. So at first he just sat there screaming at him like, "This is not the way to handle this. Why would you do this?" Just screaming in pain as well. He was kind of more fussy about it than he was angry.
Mm-hmm.
So Bob settled down a little bit, and then he beat Pearson with a stick until he was unconscious. And then Bob went to the hospital, and he filed a police report saying that a man named Larry Person bit his penis during oral sex. But Bob declined to prosecute. Bob spent 2 days at the hospital while Larry was just tied up in the bed, probably slipping in and out of unconsciousness from all the blows to the skull. And when Bob came home in 2 days, Pearson was still alive, but he was unconscious. Bob basically told the hospital, like, "Look, I had to go home and feed the dogs, let the dogs out."
Mm-hmm.
So he went home, he put a plastic bag over Pearson's head and suffocated him to death.
Well, that's one way to do it.
And that was the end of Larry Pearson. Took him a few days to dismember the body because he was so weak from getting his penis bit off. Or getting his penis almost bitten off.
Right.
He had to basically do things in small stages. He used the chainsaw way more than usual, so he made a big mess, way more than any of the victims before. So this time Bob kept the head again, so he stuck it in the freezer for 2 weeks.
Kept the head again.
Yeah, and then he went outside in the backyard. He dug up a skull of Sheldon that he left out there and replaced the heads. Basically put Larry Pearson's head back out there and took Robert Sheldon's skeleton head out.
Huh.
He then removed all the teeth with pliers.
Oh.
He basically put the teeth into 2 envelopes. One said upper and the other said lower.
And he kept them?
Yep. No, he kept everything. When we get towards the end, it's wild what he did. March 1988, Kansas was hosting the NCAA basketball tournament, March Madness.
Oh, yeah.
And at Bob's Bizarre Bazaar, Bob put 4 human skulls in the window, and he labeled it. Any ideas?
No. No.
The Final Four.
Oh, all right. You set me up with the basketball reference, and I missed the layup on that one. My bad.
Yeah, I rejected you.
Damn.
So 22-year-old Christopher Bryson was actually tied up at Bob's place during this time.
How long in between the dick biting and this new? Like, he didn't just jump back into killing. Like,
no, I think so. I want to say the dick biting was in 87.
Dick biting was in 87.
I believe the dick biting was in 87, and this is 1988.
All right, so he gave it some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So Bob picked Christopher up at 10th and McGee, which was Kansas City's #1 hotspot for gay men sex work.
Ooh.
He was a complete stranger and basically the first person Bob would attempt to kill that he did not know.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher claimed he wasn't a gay man, but he just had a real itch for cocaine. So he climbed into Bob's car, no questions asked.
Oh, God.
And when they got back to Bob's place, they started walking up the stairs. Bob had hidden an iron pipe and basically picked it up and bashed Bryson on the side of the skull. So he just got right into it. Usually he's like drugging up these people, but this time he just smacked it right in the top of the head, or on the side of the head. So he then stuck a needle into Bryson's neck to kind of make him pass out fully, in case he was not out from the blow to the head. So when Bryson woke up, his arms and legs were tied to the bedpost. A washcloth was stuck in his mouth, and a dog collar was around his neck. Mm-hmm. He did his usual sodomy, breaking the bones in the hand with an iron bar. But this time he tried to blind Bryson by taking cotton swabs soaked in ammonia and rubbing it in his eyes.
Oh. Ugh. Yeah. My eyes actually just instantly started water. Yeah. Thank you.
Like Bob just wanted more control.
Yeah.
But, Bob told Christopher if he cooperated, he would be treated well, he'd be bought cigarettes, have better food to eat.
And some cocaine.
Yeah. And if he was really lucky, Bob would rent him a video on his way home from work.
But he'd have to be really good.
Yeah. But while Bob was telling him this, he was also showing him photos of the victims he had already killed.
Oh. Yeah. What does one think at that point? It's like, oh. But he doesn't realize that he's killed anyone, so.
So Bryson was so drugged up for these 3 days when he was held captive. Mm-hmm. And he still got his daily shot to the neck of Drano to keep him from screaming.
Yeah.
But Bob was trying to have the relationship he had with his last victim, minus the penis biting.
Right. It's a one-time deal.
He tried to settle into a routine. Mm-hmm. He rented Bryson a double feature. We're watching The Lost Boys and RoboCop.
Really?
Yeah, where RoboCop, a dude does get his dick shot off, so I don't know if that's the best choice, but...
Right.
3 days into captivity, Bryson was able to convince Bob to tie his hands in front of him instead of above his head, saying it was more comfortable, because he was losing circulation to his hands, and for some reason, Bob agreed to do that. And, said he would allow him to smoke cigarettes and stuff, because he was, again, trying to be nice to him. And when Bob went to work, Bryson's kind of squirmed and wiggled and he was able to get one hand loose. But, you got to keep in mind that his hands are broken.
Right.
So his legs are bound by thick rope as well, too. But he was able to get his hands untied. And I said Bob had been distracted and he left a book of matches. Bryson was able to burn away the ropes that had his legs tied up.
Nice.
It's got to be scary because when Bob left, he would turn music up really loud, so you have no fucking clue. It's almost like Misery when the guy's trying to escape when Annie goes out. And, he doesn't know if she's coming back anytime, so, he doesn't want to be caught. So he basically opened the third floor window, and he tried to hang down and lower himself, but with his hands broken and the windowsill not being too sturdy, the windowsill broke, and he fell, and he broke his foot. But he's out, so he was able to limp down the street, naked and wearing a dog collar. He was able to flag down a meter man from the water department, and the man quickly called the cops. So the cops, however, almost blew it again, because after Bryson gave his statement, the homicide unit almost chalked it up to a homosexual's lover's quarrel.
I mean, they're going to use that excuse every time.
Yeah. So the cops are also super pissed that they were going to have to miss March Madness, and there was a final between Duke and Kansas that year. But Bryson had kind of sobered up, and he was not really drugged up. He spoke the truth, and they actually kind of had to investigate this.
Damn it.
And when they showed up at Bob's house, Bob basically was like, I'm not going to talk until I have my lawyer. But they were able to kind of get their way in the house, and instantly he's fucked because the house is full of evidence. They found all the torture gear, all the Polaroids of the victims, plus the notes detailing everything.
Right.
Plus he also kept newspaper clippings regarding the disappearances attached to his notes in a folder he had labeled house guests.
So he's got the whole evidence room right there. Just you open up the door and you're like, all right, case closed. We're done. Just bring this whole room into the courtroom.
So during the Polaroids, they definitely saw all the victims, but they couldn't see him.
Okay.
So there was a time where the cops had to like make him like recreate some of these photos, like because they just saw like a fat guy's gut.
Mm-hmm.
So like they would have him like squeeze a cop's hand and like get on his knees and do all sorts of weird like poses and shit. It was crazy. Even though this dude's pretty much dead to rights, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So in the basement, they found dried blood everywhere. They found a bloody footprint on the ceiling where Bob had hung a victim upside down.
Okay, I was gonna say how does that even happen? But yeah, okay.
And the cops kind of overlooked the chainsaw. I don't know how that was possible, but they overlooked the chainsaw until finally one cop took a closer look at it and saw there was dried blood on it, bits of flesh, and pubic hair all over it.
Yes, they're never good to find pubic hair on a chainsaw.
So cops who spent the most time in the house developed what they called the Bordella cough.
Oh.
So that's how gross the place was. It was essentially like a hoarder's place, but
Mhm.
with fucking worse shit. But it was basically like a little half hack that would kind of settle in your chest. They
Mhm.
basically had to rotate officers in and out every few hours.
Damn.
They found both the skulls. One was in a closet, and after neighbors testified, basically said Bob did a lot of late night gardening.
Late night gardening.
They found the skull outside.
Hmm.
So Kansas went a little crazy after this. You know, Bob was a known person at flea markets and also had participated in many potlucks. People had assumed that his homemade chili contained human meat.
Well, it would make you wonder. I mean, he dismantles the body. He's a chef.
So he claims that this is untrue, and he's pretty pissed off that people said that. And there's no evidence or proof. It's just a rumor.
Right.
You know how those things start.
Mm-hmm.
A local radio station, The Fox, with a DJ named Skid Roadie, wrote and produced a parody song sung to the tune of Donovan's Mellow Yellow. They call him Bob Bordella.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And Bob was not happy about this parody song at all. Like, he was pissed. They also ran a contest in a giveaway if you showed up at the station in a dog collar.
Oh.
So Bob was not happy about this. He basically said it's insensitive to all the victims and everybody involved.
Yeah, well, thank God he's got that moral conscience now.
Yeah. Bob eventually pleaded guilty, and he received a life sentence. And about a year and a half later, Bob Bordella would die of a heart attack. Because
Must be
allegedly,
a family thing.
Yep. Allegedly, the prison guards withheld his heart medication.
Mm-hmm.
And he died at a young age of 43.
I mean, that's old compared to his dad, though.
Yeah.
And most of his victims.
Yep. Oh, my God. Yeah. Yeah. He definitely deserved it. He was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So his home was basically bulldozed, and the two neighbors on each side were given the land, and one of them built like a garage over it.
Nice.
But a gentleman named Delbert Dunmeyer, he was a eccentric millionaire, bought all his belongings, like all his like artsy, weird artifact shit and all the stuff from Bob's Bizarre Bazaar for about $60,000.
$60,000.
Yeah.
And this is in what, like early 90s at this point, right?
Yeah, this is late 80s, like
late 80s,
89, or I believe. So he's a millionaire, and he died. This Delbert Dunmeyer guy died, and his family's still fighting over his estate. So basically, all Bob's stuff is probably never going to see the light of day.
Oh, wow.
And that is the story of Bob Bordella.
Damn. So I just Googled this really quick. 92,000 is what that would be today.
Damn.
Yeah, so almost $100,000.
Well, that's crazy that he put like $100 down payment on his house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine.
Yeah, I want it. Now. It's mine.
Yeah. So I can jump at that. I don't even give a fuck if it's Bob Bordella's house.
No. Do you think he ever got a blowjob from the last guy? Or do you think after the incident, that was it? He wasn't even into that anymore?
Well, they were saying that he basically, after that, he lost like all feeling to his penis.
Oh, okay. So did that change a little bit more on that last guy on so I guess he used more vegetables and less
more
meat.
yeah. I'm pretty sure he was probably hesitant to let anybody put,
Yeah.
his dick in their mouth because scared to get it bitten off.
Yeah.
That's got to be horrifying. But again, like, this dude deserves to be in hell and have his dick bitten off every fucking day.
Yeah,
Like,
you get what you get. Yeah. Oh.
Like, it sucks that, obviously he died of a heart attack, and if the guard allegedly didn't give him his heart medication, I mean, this guard can't be playing, God here. It's like,
Right.
So that's a little tough, but it is what it is. So,
anything
else to add?
I mean, I was going to ask you what you would do if you had a naked man show up with a dog collar. What you would do?
I would, to maybe take off my coat or take off my hoodie and wrap it around him and instantly and take him to safety. I wouldn't offer him any vegetables. I would say, hey, you want some coffee or like, maybe a piece of bread.
Yeah, imagine if that just happened. You're just chilling, watching TV, playing video games, and then frantic knock at the door, and that's what you see. You could be helping the person, or you could be a psychopath.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he's the crazy one.
Yeah, you could be tied up and getting your hands broken and then getting fucking fisted.
Yeah. Honey, don't answer that. It's one of them naked dogs again.
Yeah, this guy doesn't get a lot of press because the story is fucking insane. It's not your typical. I mean, obviously, not that anything's normal. With Ed Kemper or Ed Gein or Jeffrey Dahmer. It's all crazy. And these people are all sadistic and
for sure,
not good people. But
but I thought this one was pretty interesting, just based on his experiments with them and documenting it all. And it kind of would be interesting to read that and just, I mean, it's fucked up. But like,
I think it's out there. I mean, you can dig in.
I'm sure it is, but like, the effect of Drano in the neck is just this. It's there's a lot of fucked up experiments, but
it's fucked up
a little bit.
But we want to thank you all for listening. Again, we are on the You Run Podcast Network. You can check out all those shows on there. You can find You Gonna Eat That Crust on Spotify, Apple Pod, YouTube. If you want to donate to our Patreon, we now have early access episodes. So for $5 a month, you can check out episodes a week earlier. And we appreciate all the support. And thank you for listening. Anything to say, Nate?
No, thanks. Thanks for listening, and wait for the next one.
Yeah. We'll have to put up a poll to see what we're doing next. I know Seamus and Ryan wanted to join us. I'm gonna start one probably tonight, So
all right.
Probably I'm gonna keep it heavy hitters.
Okay.
Bob Bordella's not as known as most of them, just like kind of Joseph Callinger, Dean Corll. But, I'll probably stick with like the Gacy's and the Bundys and the Richard Ramirez and people like that.
Nice.
Is it nice?
Vote on. Pick your favorite, and we'll do it.
Yeah. So, all right. Everyone have a good night. And remember, in
crust we trust.
Thanks so much.